Welcome to Waking Up in Heartbreak. I know that what you're going through or have gone through is impossible. And yet, just trying to avoid it or move on or get over it just doesn't feel right. And it's probably not working anyway. Also, I know you. And you have this inkling to not skip over the hardest parts, that this heartbreak could remake you. You're in exactly the right place. I'm LiYana Silver, your host. I'm a relationship coach and author of Waking Up in the Dark Night of Divorce and Feminine Genius. We're going to go deep on how to make it through, not bypass, this ordeal, and how to emerge awake, alive, lit up, and fully, unapologetically yourself. So come close, catch your breath, right here in the rubble of all that's ending. Let's get started. Welcome to When Everything Burns with my guest, HeatherAsh Amara. Welcome to this intimate, incendiary conversation about walking through fire, not around it, and how that remakes us into the person who emerges on the other side, and how our deepest losses can become invitations to a more intimate relationship with ourselves. In this episode, look and listen for why healing doesn't begin when we rise from the ashes, but rather starts when we stop avoiding fire. The surprising choice that transformed Ash's divorce from a devastation to an initiation. The difference between learning from the past and punishing yourself with it. And why sovereignty isn't about becoming independent, but rather about becoming deeply intimate with yourself. HeatherAsh Amara and I are colleagues, but also spiritual sisters. We share a publisher, Hierophant. We also share a deep connection with the land of northern New Mexico, where I was born and raised, and where Ash lives and stewards the land. And we share fire. The Yana in my name, LiYana, refers to the word fire in Native American fire ceremonies. And Heather added ash to her name in homage to the firewalk ceremonies that she leads. We both had our homes and land destroyed in wildfires. And we both bow to the medicine only found when everything burns. Best-selling author, mentor, land steward, and philanthropist, HeatherAsh Amara has spent the last 3 decades guiding her many loyal readers through the challenging contradictions of modern life. HeatherAsh has written 9 books and created numerous audio projects, including the bestseller, Warrior Goddess Training, The 7 Secrets to Healthy, Happy Relationships with Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., and her newest book, Wild, Willing, and Wise, an interactive guide for when to paddle, when to rest, and when to jump naked into the river of life. When she's home, HeatherAsh plants her feet in New Mexico, but as a lifelong nomad, she spends much of her time traveling, teaching, and writing in cafes around the world. In we go. Welcome, welcome. HeatherAsh Amara, thank you for being here, for beaming in from my hometown, Taos, New Mexico. So glad to be here with you.
Thank you, LiYana. Same here. So happy to be here and really excited about our conversation today.
Yeah. And I have permission or your preference to call you Ash, so I will. And we'll get into the significance of your name in a moment, but let's just place you as author, land steward, and lover of fire. And all shall be revealed for those really powerful descriptors here in a moment. Well, goodness. Yeah, I want to talk about fire. I want to talk about initiations. I want to talk about inner power, at the very least. Let's start with your name. Heather is a given name, and Ash is one you chose and you added to it. Am I getting that right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was really blessed in 1990 to be apprenticing with Vicki Noble, who's an amazing woman. And one day she said to our group, "My friend's doing a fire walk. You all should go." And I had no idea what she was talking about, but I went and it completely transformed my life. And
Okay,
after that,
wait. Pause for
wait,
a second.
firewalk?
Okay,
Yes,
can you describe what a firewalk is? Because it's something. It's quite a thing. I've done one, not with you,
it's
unfortunately, but go
quite a
ahead.
thing.
Yeah, quite. Just describe that
Yeah,
and then go
it's
back if you would. Yeah.
so I'll describe this first firewalk, and it's the way I still do firewalks. There was 40 women. We built a fire together and lit the fire together, and then did a workshop. And the workshop is all about overcoming fear, stepping into your power, being courageous, listening to yourself, whether it's your time to walk or not. And the fire burns down to coals. And then this group of 40 women, we all went outside and circled around the fire. And I remember when Peggy, who is the instructor, said, "All right, anybody can go," my brain was like, "Wait, what is happening here? Like, this is fire. This is real fire." Like, I really had no idea what I was getting into. And the first woman that walked across stepped up to the fire. She was probably 40. And at that time, I was like, "Oh my God, this woman's ancient. How is she walking first?" So she throws her cloak off and just strides across the coals. And my brain exploded. How is that possible? And the first time I walked during that event, it was just the most quiet I'd ever been in my life. There was total faith and stillness in my being. And I was so transformed by that first firewalk that a month later, I became a firewalk instructor. And I've been teaching firewalking now since 1991 and training firewalk instructors. So fire's been part of my life for a long time. And my friends started calling me Ash as a nickname. And I decided to take it on as my part of my first name many years ago.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Although I do want to just set the record straight, when you do a firewalk and you walk across coals, it's not ash yet, just saying. It is actually, you could cook a hamburger on those coals. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
They
so you
are
walk,
red hot.
they're red hot. You walk across barefoot and you do not get burned. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. And you said, I read somewhere that there is, we love this image of the phoenix, which is this mythical bird that literally rises. It burned and it rises out of its own ashes. And is that part of the significance of ash to you as well?
It is absolutely. And also the ash tree. I feel very connected to the ash tree. And the ash tree is considered one of the world trees. It's like a big tree in European shamanism. And so it's double the ash and the transformation, the rising from, and also the honoring of the tree.
Mm. And as you think about it for yourself, as it comes through your work and your own lived experience, is there an overlap and connection between rising from the ashes and the essence of a dark night of the soul?
Absolutely. And that reminder that, we want to get to the rising from the ashes part. Can I just be rising now? And that there's something really important and powerful about going through and being exactly where you're at rather than trying to jump to the rising. And I really learned that through, we shared this earlier. I had a divorce. It's been like 13 years now. But at the time, it was such a turning point in my life because I was a leader of a community. My husband and I co-taught. We ran the business together. We traveled together. I mean, our lives were completely entwined. And so when he fell in love with my teaching partner and left the community, and they both moved out, I had pressure in a way of people wanting me to be okay, wanting me to like rise from the ashes right away. And I felt this moment of this fork in the road where I could go against myself and pretend I was fine and that it was all okay and that I was spiritual and that I was like, of course, there's something better happening. But I felt into myself and I'm like, I'm a wreck. Like this has leveled me to a degree that I had no idea I could be leveled. And I decided to honor the amount of pain that I was in and be honest about it. And that choice to go towards the dark, to go towards the pain, to go towards the incredible harm I was feeling, allowed the true phoenixing to happen on the other side. But it took a couple years, honestly, of deep diving. Because, of course, it wasn't just about the divorce. It was about the place that I hadn't attended to my own pain and my own hurt from earlier times.
So much in there. And it sounds to me you're naming, and I want to underscore it, that there is something that that transforms, a horrific rupture and lets it be a transformational experience, and actually transforms you into the person who can rise, right? And that really did need to be your turning toward with the spiritual bypassing in community where we all wanted you to be okay, and you said no, the turning toward what you wished to avoid, and that action, that turning felt like it's very much a piece of it's an alchemical turning. It is an alchemical move. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And there was something so potent about not abandoning ourselves. And that was the choice I recognized later. It's like the choice was I can abandon myself or I can stay with this being at this time. And that choice to not abandon and to stay through the process, and also to let it take as long as it needed to take, to not think I need to be done with this in a certain amount of time. My commitment to myself was, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And I want to get through it being more loving and more unconditional on the other side. That was my strong intent. Mm. And I think it's so important when we're going through a dark night of the soul, we're going through such a big rupture as a divorce or a breakup of any sort or a death, that we don't need to know how we're going to get through it. We just need to be willing. And that we have an intent of this is what I want to be on the other side, knowing that we're not going to see how that's going to come together. But having that intent, I think, is everything. Because that becomes the light at the end that we keep directing ourselves towards.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. And so it is there's some real North Stars that you created that really helped you walk through, and it absolutely feels like the willing to turn toward the shit in the dark. And I hear this all the time, which is when I surrender to this timing, which is we don't know when, and that action feels really potent as well. That something really important begins and allows, and this intent, yes. It's almost like you're starting with a little clay. This is my future self. And right, this is what I'm going to walk toward and put flesh on the bones and breathe the fire of life into. Yeah.
Yes. I love that image. Yeah. And how about you? What was your experience of walking through that particular fire of end of relationship?
Yes, very similar. I timed it so well to coincide with the COVID-19 pandemic. So we said, I know, so smart of me, right? So we said the word divorce in January of 2020. And so a few months later, the world locks down, and I literally didn't touch anybody but my son for like 6 months. So I will say that I came to understand the rite of passage that is a dark night of the soul 8 or 10 years before that, when I went through a major health crisis. And then, some cracks started in my then marriage. So I had a reference for what I had just stepped into again. And it's not like there's a real map. It's certainly not a 5 steps too, right? But I just knew a lot of what you were saying, which is, oh, this is a rite of passage. Okay, I'm in, I got it. As hard as it is, I understand the falling apart needs to happen before the next can be rebuilt. So it helped a little bit. It's still, like you said, it's a dismantling of so many of our identities. But I did have a similar, like, okay, take me. And maybe I'm a little too enthusiastic with these things, but I'm like, right, whatever, burn whatever isn't true for me now. And I learned later you should add a little addendum to that with gentle and kind, please, because you can and you should. But
yeah, it's recommended. Yeah,
right. So I think my willingness to question everything is beautiful, and maybe everybody doesn't have to be quite as wholehearted as I am, but such a resonance. I would say, through this whole process, and I described this in my book, I just named that they're phases of a dark night of the soul, similar to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who named the stages of grief, of dying. So helpful and sense making when we're caught in a, like, oh, this is the anger stage, this is the bargaining stage, right? So these are different, but they just are sense making. And I would say I'm currently kind of in the maybe final 2 stages, which is a reimagining and an emerging. And they're phases, they cycle. They're not stages. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
yes.
Yes. What are, so so the premise kind of our conversation, and certainly my book, is that these breakups and divorces, as how much they rock our lives and our souls, are not failures. They are an initiation into a process, and they are an awakening. And could you share what your process has been? Like, what has been an awakening? What did you wake up to?
I think one of the first things I got was that place where in the beginning it does feel like this is wrong, this is a mistake, how could this have happened, what did I do wrong? And so I had, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks where I was really going back through the past to try to figure out, like, where was the moment and what did I do and what didn't I see? And I recognized in the service of healing, I was actually punishing myself. And so I just drew a line with myself. I was like, all right, sweetheart, you're not allowed to go back. You can go back when you can witness it and really get what was the lesson. Until then, line in the sand, you're not allowed to judge yourself based on the history and story. And that was such a huge move to make, because it allowed me then to focus on my healing and what I really needed, and calling my people in to be with me rather than punishing myself. And so for anybody that's going through a rough ending, I think it's one of the critical things in the beginning is to make a new agreement with ourselves that we're going to use everything to grow and learn and heal rather than beating ourselves up. And it was so interesting because probably 2 years in, one day I thought, okay, I'm going to go back and see. I feel like I've got enough awareness now. And it literally took me 15 minutes. And I was like, right there would have made a different choice. And right there would have made a different choice. And it was so clean and clear. And I had it in my body then. Don't do that again. That's where I abandoned I got to see, oh, these are the 2 places I really abandoned myself. And it was just such a relief to not have spent 2 years punishing myself or trying to figure out what was wrong. And so that place of going through allows us to stay with what's actually happening rather than what we wish had happened. So that was one piece. And I'd say the other piece that was so beautiful in the process was recognizing that it was a dismantling of a dream, and that it was a dream that two people had created, and that many other people had also co-created with us because we were so public. And that pulling energy out of a dream just takes time. And then reimagining, like you said, like, who am I now without this human? And oh, this was another huge piece. I also was really curious because the level of pain I was in was so high. I just, at some point, I'm like, I don't know what is going on, but there's some agreement that I'm carrying that is really deep. And so I just sat with myself and just waited and let it, and it felt like it was from the depth bubbling up. And I just stayed steady and just waited. And one day, I feel like it bubbled up and it popped, and I just saw it. And the agreement was, I can't do this without him. And I looked at that and I'm like, that is old, and that is not even my agreement. Like, I just feel like I took this on so deeply, but this isn't all mine. It's much too big. And so when that popped and I got to then see it, it created such a freedom, because I was like, you've been doing it without him, girlfriend. Like, hello, like, look at you. You were doing it before him. You're doing it after him. Like, and so there was such an opening and a gratitude. And so I think that's the other thing, that these dark nights of the soul can help us get to things that we may never have been able to get to otherwise. And it takes a tremendous amount of patience and just waiting for those old gunky things to bubble up. Don't be surprised by anything, because you just never know what's in there. That was what I learned for sure.
Yes. So this is so good. Just to underscore what you said, that what you became aware of, awoke to, was a line in the sand where I will not judge myself. That, like, you actually created that relationship with yourself, that agreement with yourself. And I just love that from that later, the real process of kind of a reckoning with where right, it's so important. Where did I betray myself? Where did I abandon myself? But if we do that with blame, man, it just digs the wound deeper. It can't. And instead, you're like, I'm going to do this psychic surgery, and it's going to take me 13 and a half minutes. Yeah. Yeah. So this is really important, I think. It's really helpful, right? When we're kind of metaphorically being torn apart, or the dream, right? The dream is being torn limb from limb, to go, okay, part of this rite of passage is, okay, I'm going to be shown where are these things bubbling up from underneath, from the underworld, that I wouldn't have access to any other way, that weren't mine to begin with, that aren't mine now. I don't want to take them into the next chapter, and let's see them and break those agreements. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
More free. Get more free.
Okay, you are talking about something that feels. See, you're describing it as though it was natural, and I'm sure it was. But I do want to say this is pretty heroic, right? Just the willingness to not judge yourself, the willingness to sit in the dark, the willingness to be patient, to look deeply at things that are so scary. And is that, have you cultivated that in your work and your life, or is that just something naturally that comes, how do we support people to birth that in themselves?
Such a great question. Yeah, it's definitely cultivated. And I think having an awareness practice or a witness practice, which is something that I'm really devoted to is that mindfulness every moment. What am I thinking? What's happening in my body? What's happening in my emotional body? What am I doing with my energy? And that through, decades of deep work around awareness practice and working with energy and learning skills and tools. And this is what I share always, is that it doesn't help to have a tool and not use it. And then when you're in crisis, be like, I'm going to pull that tool up. It's too late. We have to build these pathways inside of ourselves where we're using tools over and over and over again, so that when we really need them, they're just there automatically. We're just able to grab and start to use them. And that also, we're also cultivating community, because that was something that also really helped me through, is I literally had to pass myself to different friends because I felt so victimized by the situation, which was kind of surprising, and so flattened that I literally would go to a friend and be like, I don't know what's happening. And they would soothe me. And then they'd be like, okay, this is as much as I can do. And I'm passing you to the next person. Because the amount of pain was so huge. And people were so lovely with me of like, yes, come here. Okay, go find somebody else now, which is really important. So there was this level of being passed around. And so cultivating our friends. And I think this is something that is so heartbreaking around relationship, is that especially women, we have a tendency, I believe we've been domesticated to get into relationship and cut our friends and make the relationship more important than our friends. And we really need to understand your friends are everything. Everything. And the relationship is, of course, incredibly important as well. And we need to tend all of the relationships, not just one.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, I do think it is maybe this is unkind, but it's a bit of a brainwashing, which is that this is the whole point of your life, especially, well, mostly for women. And that this one relationship, sexual, romantic, intimate, should be everything. And, if the other ones die off, no problem. This is your everything. And what a crisis. I love that you and they had such intelligence to say, this is as much as I can take, which isn't a judgment that you're too much. This is a humongous grief process. I've got a piece of it. Now, let's get you to the next person. Yeah.
Exactly. It was so helpful. And the other thing I learned through the process that has really continued to serve me is this idea of ripening stories. So often when we're in relationship, we can activate in each other different storylines from earlier, from our childhood, and they get tied together. And we often don't recognize how much they've been tied together until there's a break. And so then turning towards those stories to start to untangle them, I'm mixing metaphors, which I'm really great at. There's a level of ripening that we get to do. And some of our stories are really green. They're not ready for us to try and dismantle them. There's too much pain. There's too much attachment. Whereas other stories ripen through our presence, through our love. And we think about what ripens fruit. There's really three main things. There's a lot of different ways to ripen fruit, but one is sunshine. And so when you're going through a dark night of the soul or something really challenging, we need people who are sunshine in our lives. And people that are sunshine just show up and are like, hi, yes, I see you. I got you. I'm loving you. They're not trying to fix. They're not trying to change you. They're not trying to therapize you. They're just sunshine. And sunshine ripens stories. It's why we can tell a really hard story to somebody and suddenly the shame breaks, or the hold it has on us just eases because we've been witnessed. So we want to find more people in our lives that are sunshine, and we want to be more sunshine to others as well, and to ourselves. And the other way we ripen fruit is brown paper bag. Putting fruit into a brown paper bag, what that does is it causes the fruit to off gas itself and ripen itself. And there's times that telling our story is the medicine. There's other times not telling our story any longer, actually removing ourselves and taking a break. That actually is what helps us ripen the story. And then the third way is other ripe fruit, which is one of the best ones. To find other people like you, like your book, like that, somebody who's been through the experience and has ripened through the experience. Just reading your book or listening to these talks, there's a ripening that starts to happen because we recognize ripeness in somebody else. So
Gorgeous.
fun.
And yes, it's beautiful and rich, and it's such a permission to honor the timing and the maturation of what we are figuring out and and realizing. So beautiful. Thank you. As you're speaking and you're sharing what you went through, what you awakened to, uh, one of those, it feels like such a sense of power that is still and as quiet as it is fierce. Am I onto something? Like, what is that power that you sense? And I'm sure you probably help ripen that in in the folks that you work with and serve.
Partially that commitment to not abandon self, to stay with self, and that means we then turn inside. And so I feel like through that reckoning of the end of my marriage and the dissolution of that dream, there was a commitment to not abandon, and that then put me on relationship with myself, and my dedication became self-intimacy. How do I get to know this being, this human, not who I wish this human was or other people are telling me this human is supposed to be, but who is actually this human? And there's a diamonding process that happens with that heat of turning towards ourselves and letting other people judge us and not trying to like fix or explain, but just like other people get to have their opinion. Other people get to do what they're doing. And that was such a huge thing with me because I'm friends with all my exes. Like we tease sometimes that I could go on a cruise and I would have like a lot of lovers and exes, except for my ex-husband who just cut fiercely. And I had so much pain around that because I was like, we were married. Like, well, it made no sense to me. And I part of my coming back home to myself was recognizing, how do I want to be? And that he gets to choose how he wants to be. And that's none of my business. And that sounds so easy. And it was not. There is something though that was so like just changed my life, to stop trying to control other people or decide who they should be, but to recognize my job is to be in relationship with this human and to get to know who this human is now and support this human to the best of my capacity. And there then was this deepening into just stillness and presence and showing up rather than running away from.
There is, I am deciding that diamonding is a verb now. Yeah. Is that something you use? Is it something you talk about now?
The first time it popped out of my mind.
Well, it is now.
Like diamonding. Yep. It is now.
It is now. It's actually kind of a way back from my first book, Feminine Genius, speaking about really like going through the dark or being with our own, what we would consider darkness, and that diamonding process, right? You can see it and sense it from the eyes, from the pores in the body of someone who has not only been through something difficult, but refused to turn away and turned toward and claimed that power. Yes, gorgeous. Gorgeous.
It's so true.
If you're willing to share, um, well, let me share a piece of me personally before I ask the question. And so this has been so central for me, which is a relation. What relationship do I want with myself? Who am I as a sovereign, singular being that has not altered and pretzeled myself to fit another person? And my relationship was really wonderful and beautiful for decades. Still, one of those agreements was, I'll form fit myself to you. And so I think I'm starting to shift, but for a while I was like, you can't pay me. There's there's not an amount of money you can pay me to get back in a relationship because I'm gonna go right back there. I need this relationship with me. Um, and that feels primary. So I would say I'm toward the end of that process, but not quite there. So that's my foundation from which this next question comes, which is, yeah, what do you want in relationship now or next, or what does it look like for you now? A relationship with someone else. We get what's
Someone
going
else,
on with
exactly.
you. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such, yes. So I feel very similar. I'm open to another relationship. And I did have a great relationship for 5 years after the end of my marriage with a friend that I had been lovers with in the past. And it was so healing because it was so easy, so easy. And we're still really dear friends. Like, it was a really beautiful transition. And I feel very tender around, yes, I would love to find a partner and open my heart and like go in with somebody. I don't want to do it the way I did it. And I'm so happy in my life. Like, I have such rich friendships. I love like stewarding my land, being traveling, teaching. Like, I feel really full. And so a partner would have to add a lot in order for, right? And so it's fun because I find myself being more attracted to people. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I must be getting ready. It's not just a head thing. And I'm like, ooh, look at her. Ooh, yum. Ooh, hot. Like, it's been fun to see
Yes.
who I'm attracted to and what opens me. So I'm in that gentle phase right now. And yeah. And it's so funny. I was laughing at myself because I got myself onto a couple of dating apps. I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. I'm like, I'm ready. And I joined two different dating apps, one that was for women and one that was for everybody else. And I was on for a day and I'm like, nope, shutting this down. Like, do not have the energy or the desire. Like, obviously, I'm not even responding to people. So I trust it'll circle around or
Yeah.
not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That does feel similar. Very similar. Very
Yes.
similar. Um, and speaking for myself, this feels like a really beautiful process, and it also feels like yeah, I'm a questioner, And so there was a moment I had the other day where, because I've done a lot of really interesting things with my life. I've been very cult adjacent. I haven't really joined cults, but some of the things I was like, that had some of the markers. And so I had this feeling the other day. I was like, did I just get out of a cult of marriage? Not my marriage, right? But
But
the
yes,
institution of marriage, the idea of that your life is incomplete without this, and that right, I'm like, how tunnel visioned was I? What did I miss throughout my life? That time with friends was a consolation prize, was something you do when you don't have a date. So I really am appreciating this, whatever a profound 180 is, or 360 on this. Um, yes, okay, lovely. So you mentioned stewarding land, and for those of you who are watching rather than just listening, there is a beautiful bright blue sky behind Ash, and that happens to be the sky of Taos, New Mexico, which is where I was born and close to where you live in Steward Land. Um, so I would love to. You had mentioned as we were talking that you have experience with fires on the land that you steward. I do too. So I don't know why it's relevant, but do you mind? I think it is. So will you share why?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's absolutely relevant. So 4 years ago, it was right around this time actually. 4 years ago, there was the largest wildfire in New Mexico came through, and it started 30 miles away from the land that I steward, which is outside of Las Vegas, New Mexico. And I was like, don't worry about it. It's 30 miles away. Famous last words. So, what was so powerful about what happened is I have such a deep relationship with fire. And suddenly everything is on fire. And I was at a workshop, so I'm teaching, and I get a call from my best friend. She's like, "They're evacuating your house. What do you want me to get?" And I was like, "All the books and my statues. Like that's all I cared about. Like I have my computer, so we can get that." And I knew one of the most optimistic people on the planet. Like I just see the good in everything. And I was actually teaching, and all of a sudden, what dropped in my body is, "You're going to lose the land. The fire's going through. There's nothing you can do." And all my friends were like, "Just pray more." And I'm like, "It's done. It's done." So the day the fire actually went through, and I don't know if you all can see, well, you can see if you're watching, it's really windy, and it was just like this. The winds were gusting to 70 miles an hour. And so we managed on Saturday to go behind the lines and break the evacuation and pull a bunch of stuff off the land. And I got to say goodbye and to all the trees and to the building we had built. And on Monday, I was at the evacuation center and I sat in my car. And, if you've ever been part of a wildfire, there's updates constantly about where the fire is and what's happening. So I checked online, and the fire was in my neighbor's yard, and it was heading towards our property. And I just started weeping. And my whole body was like, "You have to go there. You have to be there." And I'm like, "No, sweetie, you can't go there." And so I just had this moment of, I don't know what to do. What do I do? And I got really quiet. And this is part of that practice piece, is like, I've trained myself. I'm not always great at it, but in that moment, I was able to hold of like, stop, get completely quiet and listen. And so I just got super quiet and I dropped in and I felt with my heart to the land. And I asked, "What do I do?" And what I heard was, "Sing to the trees, stay with us and sing to us." And so for the next hour, I sat in my truck and I wept and I sang to the trees, and I just stayed knowing that the land was burning. And that moment was so just wrenchingly beautiful, to recognize in myself something that I had wanted to, a capacity I wanted to build in myself that didn't happen through the end of my marriage, because I feel like I did not do it well. It was a mess. But that I had arrived someplace I had visioned I wanted to be. And because I'm so tenacious and like stayed in, that something so difficult could happen and I could stay with it. Yeah.
Oh,
We lost 175 acres of forest out of 180 acres that I steward. And so that was another dream shift of a retreat center. And for humans, it was like a 5-year retreat center dream that became a 50-year vision of, what do we need to do to restore things for the butterflies and the bears and the bees. And it's in progress. It's heartbreaking every time I go out there, and it's also miraculous for what did survive and what's coming back.
wow. There's something so needed about our individual ability to stay with something difficult and be in the terrible beauty of it, but collectively too. Yeah, yeah. Gosh, I just, to bring it to how we relate, there was also a very devastating, I think it was 80 acres, so not 175. But that's what you lost personally. That was not just the.
It was 500,000 acres that we lost. Yes, it was. It's still, I drove here from from Las Vegas, and the scar is really unbelievable to see what the fire did. And
Wow.
it's not growing back because we're in desert. People are like, oh, well, it'll grow back. I'm like, not necessarily. Climate
Right.
change, like
Right.
we may never get the ponderosas back in the places that it burned.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes. So in 1996, so this was quite a bit ago, I was in my early 20s and living abroad. My first career was in dance, and my parents called me up and said there's been this devastating fire. It burned down our childhood home that they built brick by brick. And so I came home, and I have the same visual in my heart of like this is a black moonscape. And it made no sense because nothing was the same size that it was when right? There was like, I think at the time I came, there was little grass. So I guess we had gotten a little bit of a growing season, but no tree. Like, yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure my mom is listening to this at some point. So I know that this is really hard for her. But
Mhm.
yeah, we just, this loss of a retreat center and a home. And thank you.
Mhm. Yeah. And again, not to override, I wrote a Substack that was um, make lemonade from the ashes, but first grieve, cry, mourn, because there were so many people that said to me, "Oh, like, oh, the trees will grow back," and I was like, "Sweetheart, take a breath, and can we just be with the fact that 500,000 acres just burned, and that hundreds of people lost their homes and their livelihoods, and it's so poor up here. I mean, people live, the land is everything." And so it not only, I lost a lot personally, but it's nothing compared to what our community lost and people who had been on the land for 400 to 500 years. So I think for all of us, like you said earlier, learning how to be with heartbreak and be with devastation and be with loss individually and collectively, and stay with each other, be able to look each other in the eyes and say, yeah, out, wow, I'm here. What do you need? Rather than the quick bright siding of the trees will grow back.
I
We
have
do that when we're uncomfortable, right? Because instead of like, let's sit with the devastation.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I have
Mhm.
so many of the things that you've said. I'm like, oh, that's a chapter in my book because, we're tapping into something that is so um, personal but universal. So, and this, I want to put a little magnifying glass on this piece. Um, the way that we relate to ourselves or we relate to someone else's pain that you're speaking to is so important. It is so hard because either we're uncomfortable, it's not comfortable when you're in pain or when I'm in pain, or I care about you and I want to rush us on to where you have a smile. And it is such a cruelty, actually. We are cruel to ourselves or someone else when we say, we don't mean to be saying it, but what we are saying is, nah, you're not feeling it, or it's not so bad, or I can't hear it, or you have to deal with this yourself, or you're making it harder than it actually is. None of which I think we mean to communicate, but what a skill to be able to say, no, this is bad. This is a devastation. I'm not sure the trees will grow back. We gotta just stay here for a minute. And we can do this, we can feel this and not drown. We can do it. Yeah.
We can do it. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. My goodness. My goodness. I have, am going to say two more questions, but I have been known to sneak another one in there. Um, is there anything you'd like to share around, yeah, your where people want to find you? I want to. Well, I will put anything you share verbally in the show notes for this conversation. Substack, let's definitely get that one in there. But anything else you want to share, your website, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. The Substack's called Out of the Fire. And it came out of the fire. And it's really about how to hold contradiction, how to stretch so we can hold the beauty and the horror and all of it. So that's what I write about there. And warriorgoddess.com is the website where all things warrior goddess live, from that book, Warrior Goddess Training. And we have a lot of classes and courses that happen there. And then the third website's ashrose.org. So I also am part of a nonprofit spiritual organization that we're just bringing back to life again. So it's been really fun. So ashrose.org is that organization.
Beautiful, beautiful. I don't know if I shared this with you, but I'm so appreciating our star-crossedness over the years, and I'm really looking forward to continuing knowing you and connecting. When I wrote my first book, I'm a little pokey. I think I'm coming out with number 2, and I think you're on number 9. So, but when I proposed a subtitle, they were like, nice subtitle, but it's too close to this other woman's book, which is Warrior Goddess, the first book. And I was like, okay, all right, darn. So, we've been intertwined since the beginning.
Yes. I love that.
Oh, goodness. If you could, well, before I ask my final question, is there anything that bubbled up that you want to make sure gets said for this really soul work that is?
Yes. So deep. Just really my gratitude to you for shining the light and shining a light in such a way that it's a light inviting people to go into the dark and not be afraid of the dark. And yeah, it's just so important. So much gratitude to you for the deep work that you're doing, both personally and that you're bringing to the world now.
Thank you. Thank you. I received that. Thank you so much. Yeah. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, I will rein myself in and I will ask my very last question, which is, if you could get a message to you at one of the real dark, deep moments, it really could be a fire moment. It could be a dark night of divorce moment. Or you could get a message to someone else. You could do both, either yourself in that moment or another. What would you say? What message would you get to them?
I would share the message that my best friend shared with me when I was going through my divorce. And she said to me, "You don't think you're going to get through this, do you?" And I said, "I don't." And she said, "That's okay. I know you are going to get through it, and I'll hold for you until you know as well." And so that's what I would share, is that there are many people holding, and you may not feel like you're going to get through or you know how to get through, but there's other people that have been through the same depth of despair and difficulty that are holding and saying, "I got you. I will hold for you and with you." So that's what I would send back in time, and also out to anybody who's going through a challenging time right now.
Yeah. And somehow it did, right? It did, and it did. Like, it came through her, and I do think that we become the ancestors that get those messages to ourselves and to other people. So thank you for landing in the heart who needs to, for whom that's a life raft at the moment. Yeah. My goodness. Oh, well, I am. Yeah. I wish I was there to smell some sage with you and say hello to the land of enchantment. What a joy to be with you, Ash. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's such a delight to get to talk with you, and I look forward to our paths continuing to weave together.
Yes, with fire.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we part ways, my newest book is now available for pre-order. Waking Up in the Dark Night of Divorce, the radical road through breaking, awakening, and self-reclamation is out October 20th, 2026, but you can order it now and get 2 beautiful book bonuses. The first is a workbook that takes all the practices from the book, is designed beautifully, it gives you extra space to draw, write, and doodle as you wish. The second is a book club with me over 3 weeks, where I'll read from the book, we'll do practices together, we'll discuss, do Q&A, etc. You can pre-order at liyanasilver.com/wakingup. Thank you for being here with me. This radical road is not the easy road, but it's the true road. It's the transformative road, and I am glad to be walking it with you. I'll see you in the next episode.